Hello and welcome to the GearJunkie Weekly Roundup. I am Adam Ruggiero, joined by Sean McCoy and Jenny Verrochi. This week's episode brought to you by Angle Coolers. So typically what we do here on the show is we gather a few of the week's biggest headlines and we go a little bit in depth. But this last week has been an interesting one. It's also why Jenny is our special guest this week. Jenny is, why don't you introduce yourself? You're the founder of Wild Barn Coffee.
I am the founder of Wild Barn Coffee. It's superfood infused and nitrogen infused cold brew coffee in a can, advertised towards the outdoor enthusiast.
Which is relevant. First of all, it's awesome coffee, and we drink a lot of it at GearJunkie. But in addition, your company was originally called Backcountry Nitro.
Correct.
And that is significant because this last week, there has been a ton of backlash. Unless you've been under a rock, you know. Backcountry has received a lot of backlash over the report from the Colorado Sun initially that we followed up on, that Backcountry has been suing smaller brands for using the word backcountry in their title. And you are one of the people that was involved in all of this. Can you tell us how you got involved and what happened?
I was. So they didn't actually sue me, and I just want to say that I'm not here to bash backcountry.com. But a few months ago, I did get a letter of cease and desist. And, you know, reading that before all of this hype with the outdoor community, and they came back with a huge backlash. You know, obviously, every time you get a letter of cease and desist, and this wasn't my first one, but it's kind of like a bat. It's like a bat to the knees, you know. And when I got the news, I was upset. Went for a trail run, came back, and the only thing you can do as a business is to pivot. So, you know, number one rule, you can't take anything personally. And backcountry.com, you know, they were doing what they thought was right, and coming after all the small businesses for the name. But I knew in that point I didn't have the money to get all the lawyers involved. I had to pivot myself into rebrand, and so I did, and I'm happy with it. If I'm able to share my story, though, and help all the other small businesses, I think there's 50 plus that were involved, and some of them can't share their stories because they have signed documents. I'm happy to help in any way I can.
So you had to rebrand, and you did, to Wild Barn Coffee, which looks really slick, by the way.
Thank you. It's a very cheeky brand.
What was that process like? Like, how is there a lot of money that goes into rebranding? What does that look like?
There is. So the trademark is a beast of its own. This time I hired lawyers to do it for me to acquire the Wild Barn Coffee trademark because there is so much that goes into it. And 80% of people who apply for trademarks actually don't get it because it is a 6 to 8 month process. So that costs, you know, around $1,000, and then with the new design and packaging and everything, you know, it put me out of business for a little bit, and it did cost a few grand. And as a small company, that's huge.
Did you ever respond to Backcountry? Did you push back at all? Or?
I did. I was my advice that I was getting was to keep communication open and not to sign anything. So I was kind of talking back and forth with the lawyers, asking where they stood on this, because they told me that I could still sell Backcountry Nitro, but I couldn't advertise. So I couldn't have my website up. I couldn't have any social media handles be Backcountry Nitro. And with that, there's really no product if you can't advertise your own company.
How long did it take for you to decide to just move on to something else?
It took a while, but I did it pretty quickly. I knew that I had to pivot. Stagnant business is a really scary thing, and I had a lot of good momentum going with my Kickstarter and with Backcountry Nitro, so changing the brand name I knew I had to do.
So you're watching the GearJunkie Weekly Roundup. Sean, Adam, we're joined by Jenny Verrochi, who is the founder of Wild Barn Coffee, formerly Backcountry Nitro. We're presented by Angle Coolers this week, and we are spending the entire episode kind of rehashing what's happened with Backcountry and its lawsuits against other brands. This story, you had agreed to come on the show a couple of days ago, before the latest chapter sort of unfolded here. Sean, you and I were working at like 7 o'clock last night, scrambling to get this news out. Essentially, Backcountry CEO Jonathan Nielsen finally released a statement. The initial story broke last Friday, and it wasn't until Wednesday, really, that we heard anything from Backcountry. Do you kind of want to sum up what we posted and what Jonathan's message was?
I mean, yeah, it was a fairly basic apology. I feel that said, we're sorry that we did this. They dropped the lawsuit against Marquette Backcountry Skis. And that is kind of the extent of the apology from what I remember, that it was fairly short. I think they're a little surprised at the backlash. And from a lot of what I've read from other people's take on it is they kind of sound more like they're sorry they got caught than they're sorry that they did it. But
right.
That was the feeling that I think a lot of people have taken away from it. Personally, I mean, I'm glad that they have accepted the responsibility of, hey, we did make a mistake. The CEO apologized. That's something that is kind of rare to see in corporate America these days, I think. But at the same time, I think it had some pretty big impacts on a lot of brands. I mean, how much did this end up costing you and your company that was just a fledgling, company getting started? How much do you think that
Around $4,000.
Yeah, and how much did that mean to a company like that at that time?
Right. Yeah, not that much. I'm very small company.
Yeah.
When did you hear about the apology?
Last night. I mean, it's been crazy. I've been keeping up with this, and it's almost too much. But I heard last night as soon as they came out. I think it was maybe Snooze or Outside Magazine came out with the first article, and yeah.
Has Backcountry or did Backcountry ever reach out to you about any compensation for the costs incurred in rebranding?
They did not.
And they still haven't?
No.
Okay. See, that's been kind of the message I've seen from a lot of the response to this. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit too little, too late, mm-hmm. right? And there are plenty of brands that have had to rebrand, some under very different circumstances than your own.
Right.
And what do they get out of this apology? And I guess what I wonder is what is your takeaway from reading this apology?
Right. I understand where backcountry.com is coming from, and it's hard because everybody who works under backcountry.com, I'm sure they're just like you and I, and they're dealing with all this backlash through customer service, which really isn't fair to go and attack them. But the apology, it is kind of too little too late. They didn't go after the big companies with money to fight back. Any of us, and maybe if all of us together could have fought together, maybe something could have happened, but none of these really small companies had any money to say anything. So it does, a lot of these media outlets have been using the word bullied, and I think that the trademark lawyers are mostly just doing their job, but you do feel, as a small business owner, you do feel kind of cornered. And what else are you going to do besides do what they're asking you?
I think one of the things that I wonder about quite a bit is how much did Backcountry as an entity actually have to do with this, and how much of this was from their corporate TSG Consumer, which is a $5 billion plus company that owns Backcountry.
Canyon has stake in Canyon, has stake in Planet Fitness, I think.
As well as a vast array of food companies, houseware brands, lots of them that you'd be familiar with. Mm-hmm. It's one of those.
But they don't own a stake in Wild Barn Coffee.
They do not.
Right. That's true.
Although you never know, they may approach you to buy it someday for vast amounts of money, and you can retire.
Right.
You never know. But I mean, it's kind of an interesting one to me that Backcountry's taken a lot of backlash here, and I wonder how much Backcountry, the people that work there, I think in general, are working with a passion for what they do, working in the outdoors and the gear around it. But the company that owns them is they're doing a lot of things.
Right, but what's really interesting is in the wake of the reporting, the Facebook group Boycott Backcountry, I don't know if you've seen Boycott Backcountry, but one really astute member of that group pointed out that by the time I had seen the group, it was up to more than 11,000 members, right? Yeah. So I did some quick math, and he's like, if everybody in this group spends just $100 a year at Backcountry, that's like $1.1 million. And when you think of the cost of outdoor gear, it's unlikely, you're probably spending between $100 and $1,000 a year. And then you're looking at millions of dollars that are at stake or may have already been lost. And to your point, is it too little too late? How much of this is motivated by, somebody, TSG consumers or partners, looking at the bottom line, being, wow, we stand to lose a significant chunk from this brand.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't imagine that conversation isn't going on in some boardroom somewhere.
I'm actually
right
really
now.
proud of myself that I did that math on the spot.
Yeah, me
because
too.
That's pretty
That was
good.
incredible. You're watching the GearJunkie Weekly Roundup. It's a special edition. We're talking about backcountry with Jenny Verrochi, founder of Wild Barn Coffee, presented by Engel Coolers, and it's the live read portion of the show where I tell you that we're brought to you by Engel Coolers, the first and original high-performance cooler company that makes hard and soft-sided coolers, live bake coolers, fridge freezers, and accessories. You can check out more at engelcoolers.com. And a big thanks to Engel because we're going to give away this Engel HD30 soft-sided cooler and some swag. And to enter, just drop a comment below telling us where you would use this cooler. We're going to be doing this over the next 2 weeks. So again, drop in a comment below. Tell us where you'd use this cooler, and we'll select a winner for the Engel HD30. Thank you, Vanna. That was really, really good.
I feel like I have some game show in my future.
So, all right. So we talked about backcountry. Do you want to tell us about your special holiday coffee pack? Yes.
I call it the holiday six-pack because one is already gone.
The 5-pack, yeah.
It's too good to keep together.
Special
Holiday
edition 6-pack.
five-pack, yeah.
5 cans.
Yeah, so now it's canned cold brew. I'm in a few local markets in Boulder. Eldor Mountain Resort was my first account, and they're my largest account right now. I will soon be in Lucky's Market. We've gotten approved. We're just waiting for some shelf space. And then hopefully, I would love to be in all of the mountain towns really soon, you know? Got to own the home first, but we are based out of Boulder, and it's a great community to be a part of, both in the outdoor world and the food and beverage.
When did Wild Barn, or what was it at the time, Backcountry Nitro, when did that start?
That started, so I launched last year, at the beginning of this year, with the Kickstarter.
Oh, you're brand new.
Brand new.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, babies. But so my parents own a coffee roasting business called Red Barn Coffee Roasters, and we actually source our beans from a sustainable female-owned and operated coffee farm in Honduras, which then the beans then go down to my parents in New England, and their company roasts it, and then it comes to me, and I do a superfood tea and infuse that into the cold brew coffee. So it's no dairy, no sugar. It's better for you.
A superfood tea?
It's superfood tea, so with goji berries and cacao nibs. It provides extra antioxidants, protein.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, caffeine.
Sweet.
Oh, can I drink one?
Absolutely.
I'm going to drink it. Sean, you're in charge, man.
All right, you're gonna be in charge in about 10 seconds after you get this caffeine boost.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to be good.
So we've got. I'm trying to debate. Is this a naked skier on here?
That is.
Okay, because you can't with the lines across there. I was like, is that?
Yeah,
The
it's
socks?
classy.
Okay.
But
I like it. I
We're
like
here to
it.
shake up the coffee game.
Oh.
Everyone's a little too serious, you know?
That's
Yeah.
creamy.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So the nitrogen eliminates the need for dairy or sugar because it makes
That's
it creamy.
outstanding.
Yeah.
Oh, yum. Yeah, I like that.
Sean,
that
do you
seems like a
expect
good deal.
anything else to happen from this story? Have we reached the end? Or does Backcountry have more work to do? What do you expect to happen next?
I think it's going to entirely depend on consumers at this point. If people keep clamoring for change in this or for more out of backcountry, it's going to keep going. It really is going to matter on what consumers decide they want to do on this.
What else can Backcountry do?
I think they
in
can
your
make
opinion?
some amends with a lot of brands like yours that have had to face difficult financial times. I mean, I can imagine if you're running a small company like that, and your significant portion of your budget is stripped away to have to rebrand, that's a big deal. And I don't think it's necessarily Backcountry's place. I think it might be the parent company and needs to step up and say, yeah, we kind of goofed this. I mean, for you, $4,000 is a lot of money. For them, it was probably about how much it cost for one lawyer to write one letter for the course of 1 hour.
Right.
You know, we're
Definitely.
talking, they have budgets that are just very different place than a small business. And you know, to make some sort of amends, I'm not saying to necessarily compensate for every penny lost, but there could be some things that maybe to work with a company like yours to help it grow or carry it on their website would be kind of nice.
Right.
Things like that. I don't know.
I know not every brand. I know, like you said, some brands sign non-disclosure agreements and all that. But can you say if you have talked or met with anybody else that's been impacted by this?
I have spoken with them, and you know, for me, I'm in a different situation because I'm a coffee company, so it's easier for me to pivot. And Backcountry for me was just a word to advertise this towards the outdoor enthusiasts. Because I'm Wild Barn, that doesn't change my values. I'm still gonna get out there with my friends and push people out into the backcountry. But for small companies, like Backcountry Babes, who are nonprofit. What else are they? That's what they do, And I think it's more wrong to go after those small companies, those nonprofits who are, providing education in the backcountry and safety and tools to get out in the backcountry, like some other companies, snowboard ski companies that primarily sell backcountry gear. I mean, it's just. It's different. So my heart really goes out to those companies. For me, yeah, of course, it was a bat to the knees, but that is business. And I knew that walking into, starting my own company. But I think that justice needs to be served to the smaller nonprofits and, things that are actually going to help people get into the backcountry.
And there is a GoFundMe. There was a GoFundMe that put out that I found the link from through Boycott Backcountry, and that GoFundMe was going to help Marquette Backcountry Skis. And I think my understanding is that they were kind of, David Olila, the founder and inventor of Marquette Backcountry Skis, was kind of the figurehead. It was like the most vocal opponent.
Right.
So the GoFundMe was to reimburse some of those legal costs, and then whatever was left over after that was going to be redispersed to other brands, and then whatever was left after that was going to go to Big City Mountaineers, the nonprofit, helping get kids outdoors, which is really interesting. Are you waiting for anything else, or are you just moving forward and putting it all behind you?
I'm moving forward. Some authors have come to me and said, we can still fight, backcountry.com, let's partner with all the other ones. And at this point, I don't know what I've done, what I felt is right to help other companies thus far. I'm ready to move on, but I want everybody else to feel the same way. It's a confusing time.
I'm feeling really good off this.
Something's got a kick to it.
Really good.
Bean juice.
Jenny, thank you so much for doing a live show here so soon after all this has been happening. One more plug, where can people find Wild Barn Coffee?
Right now, Eldora Mountain Resort, we will soon be shelf stable, so we'll be able to do online stores and then spread. So right now, just some local stores in Boulder, Neptune Mountaineering, Eldora Mountain Resort, Lolita's Market, McDevitt's Tacos.
Nice.
Where all the locals go.
Or the GearJunkie office.
Or
we
the
still have
GearJunkie
four
office.
left.
Yeah.
4 left from our 6-pack.
Wayfinder, maybe? We could get some of that in there.
Also, if you want to catch up on all the coverage, the story on GearJunkie.com is "We Made a Mistake. Backcountry Responds to Public Debacle." Sean, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jenny, thank you again.
Thank you.
I'm Adam Ruggiero, and our thanks to Angle Coolers for sponsoring this show. Stay tuned next week for our next weekly roundup. Until then, see you later.